Welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2020, showcasing the very best of British cheese. I'm Kerry Love and will be looking after this session along with two senior judges. I have a long association with the dairy industry from spending most of my working life in flexible packaging. Cheese and dairy has long been a passion of mine, so I'm very happy and excited to be part of these awards today. This morning, we're judging the cheese classes, and the one to be judged now is Best Other Blue, soft cheese, with 19 entries, and is sponsored by Bennett OP Limited, and we are very grateful for their support. The cheese with the most points will be the winner and will go forward to the best of category stage. Two judges will introduce themselves, explain the scoring system, and carry out the judging. So first up, I'll introduce you to Sally.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sally Young. I've worked in the dairy industry for around about 30 years, predominantly with cheese. And I have quite a wide range of experience with not only British cheeses and territorial cheeses from the UK, but also continental cheeses as well. So today we're looking at other blue soft cheese, okay, which comes in a variety of shapes. We might have small individual cheeses like this, and then we may also have some wedges of cheese, which are obviously cut from a much bigger wheel. So our scoring system, we're going to be looking at some appearance, aroma, we're looking at texture and flavour, and the sort of after flavours and the aftertaste that we get as well. So let me hand over to Richard to introduce himself, and then we'll get started.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Newell. I'm now in my 38th year in cheese. Started when I was 5. That's not to trump Sally, of course. So we're both long servers in the industry. Wide experience of blues, particularly. That's my speciality. But also short, soft, cheddars and territorials. Probably slightly less experience on continentals than Sally, but that's why there are two judges who complement one another. So I think, Sally, if you lead off with the first sample, I think
yes,
sample 205.
Yes, what a lovely looking little cheese.
Lots of character.
Lots and lots of character. It's you can't wait to cut into it, can you? It just looks beautiful. This is
truly rustic and traditional.
It's very rustic and traditional, yes. It's the sort of thing that really complements a cheese board. And if you went into a deli and saw that, you'd want to buy it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just for the viewers, as Sally mentioned earlier, we are formally scoring these. We're not going to start doing a Dutch auction of all the scores between us, but we're making our notes. And just suffice to say that there is a rigorous scoring system in place to make sure that we have a proper degree of objectivity. So pierced from above, you can see the blue lines with the blue Penicillium Roquefortii. Of course, with a blue cheese, you're tasting what the blue's done to the curd rather than the taste of the curd itself.
Yes.
The blue mould will actually break the protein down, and the cheese will start quite chalky, but should end up with quite smooth and mellow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cut into that. Nice soft paste, Sally.
Yes, lovely soft paste. Nice aroma. I can just get a little back note of ammonia there, but that's certainly not unpleasant and something that you'd expect anyway with blue cheese. It's quite a mild blue cheese flavour, but actually that's very nice. Very nice indeed.
Very slightly rustic, farmy hint to it as well. Real oodles of character.
Mm. Yes, it's probably coming from the rind. I'm only getting that very slightly, I have to say, but I do know what you mean.
Yeah, would you buy it again, Sally? Nice. If you purchased that as a consumer, would you buy it again?
I definitely would. I like that.
Me too. It's we've started the class with a cracking example.
What a good start.
Super. Shall we move on?
Most definitely. Okay, let's pop that one back in its packaging for now.
So moving on to sample 206, a blue cheese from a larger round, again with a nice rind on it. quite sparse bluing. I think we get quite used to Stilton in this country with very even veining. But that won't necessarily detract from the cheese at all.
This type of veining, as Richard was just talking about, this type of veining is quite typical of some of the Italian blues, such as the Gorgonzola Dolce, where the veining isn't quite so fractured, if you like, as the UK veining. Now I've got a little bit of pink coloration.
Yeah, not the east.
The rind of this, very soft.
It is very, and it's very difficult for blue needs oxygen to flower. So of course, when the cheese gets to a certain degree of breakdown, it gets closer textured. It's harder for the blue to then carry on blooming.
Quite low in terms of flavour profile, I would have thought, but I think it's supposed to be a very mild cheese.
Yeah, possibly quite a good intro cheese.
Mm. Yeah.
Very pleasant though.
Very nice indeed. Yes, it's lovely creamy texture, but just a little bit.
Quite often, it's tempting if you buy mainstream blues.
Yeah.
If the cheese are too young, they tend to be quite metallic and bitter because you're tasting the blue mould. With this, you really are tasting what the blue mould's done to the curd.
Yes.
So just how it should be.
Okay.
Just giving that some scores. How did you think it compared to the first one?
Again, it's almost a little bit tricky because we're looking at two slightly different types of cheese, but they're both very good, very close scores, I would say, at the moment for me.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we move on to sample 207?
I think you should.
From a smaller blue, hardly any rind on it, wrapped in saran, but I'm pretty convinced that's purely for the sake of the cheese award, rather than how you would perhaps see it presented for sale. Look at that, Sally.
Immediately noticeable for me with this one is it's quite a white body, isn't it?
It is. Makes you even wonder if it could possibly be a goat's. I haven't smelt it yet. No, I don't think so. Can you see the viewers? Can you see the piercing needle holes?
Yes, I was just going to say that's a good point to mention.
So in goes the oxygen when the needles go in, and all the blue mold spores then start to flower, a bit like marigolds in a flower bed. And that blue mold then starts to digest the curd. So this would have started off quite chalky, but now it has a lovely smoothness to it. Really a lovely looking cheese and beautiful distribution of blue.
Very good, isn't it?
You can see there where the blue mold has flowered, where the piercing needles have gone in.
I'm not getting a huge amount of aroma, but
No. Quite earthy, the aroma, mushroomy almost.
mushroomy, yes, yeah. It's quite sweet, isn't it? Quite a sweet flavour.
And mellow, there's no harshness or bitterness there.
Mm.
Sally, are you getting a slight chewiness or actually eating the blue mold itself? Almost bitty.
It is slightly bitty, and it's sometimes a little, it's almost like a little bit of film that you get around the outside of the blue, isn't it? So it's like the little tubes that you get. You get a little slight crunchiness from that. Yeah. For me personally, I don't find that a problem, but it's just where that outer surface of the mold hasn't quite broken down. But it's, I think that's quite good.
I particularly like that cheese. It's such a good all-rounder from every angle.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to move on, Sally?
I'm just adding up my scores.
Scores on the doors. While you're doing
yes, I'm
that, I'll
ready to move
start
on.
opening sample 208. Foil wrap slim wedge.
So, Richard, while you're unpacking that, for the viewers, each entry had to be up to 250 grams, so they won't all be an original packing or a complete piece of cheese. But for artisan cheesemakers, sending 8 samples in is, quite a cost. So some pieces are quite small, just for the viewers so they understand.
Yes, yes, that's fine.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Mhm.
Are you going to kick off with this one, Sally, or shall
Yes,
I?
I'm quite happy to kick off with this one. So again, this has been cut from a much larger wheel. Okay, you can quite clearly see the veining on both sides of that. And I've got a little gap on my veining here. And I don't think a mouse has been at that just yet. It's just the way that the cheese is cut. Certainly at the core, sometimes it's quite difficult to cut that very cleanly.
Quite well on, isn't it? I noticed some free moisture on this.
Yes.
And are you getting an
ammonia.
quite a strong ammonia aroma? Yeah, so right, it's clears the nose. It's the sort of cheese to have perhaps when you've got a bit of a cold.
Yes. Yeah.
Just for the viewers, the blue mold, when it digests the curd, it actually converts the lactic acid and neutralizes it. And over time, the cheese becomes more and more alkaline. And in the end, you actually get the amino acids, which is going into far too much technical detail, breaks down to ammonia, and that neutralizes the lactic acid. So you end up with a cheese that can almost clear the nostrils. And this cheese is very ripe.
Mm. It's very pleasant. I'm just having another little taste, but with a little bit more blue.
Lovely sweet aftertaste on it, Sally.
I was just going to say, I think the aftertaste is probably better than the initial taste.
Yes, and certainly the initial taste better than the aroma.
Mm. Yes. That's actually quite a nice cheese. I'm not sure it has a wow factor for me, but I think it's a very pleasant example, that's for sure.
I'm just totting my scores up. Yeah, it's actually, when I look at my own scores, Sally, it hasn't scored that high, but it doesn't reflect how much I enjoyed it. So I've asterisked that one, perhaps for consideration a little bit later. So next sample, I think, sample 209, again cut from a small round truckle. Lovely rustic traditional wedge from a blue truckle, again pierced vertically, and it's got a nice even distribution of blue veining. Fairly firm, it's almost a semi-hard cheese.
It is quite firm, isn't it? Have you got a bit of discoloration on yours?
Yeah, oh, just, do you get a, I'm wondering if this is a goat's cheese, although it looks too dark. Yeah, I haven't got the discoloration that you've got.
No. Okay. I know, yes, I'm wondering about goat's cheese. Yeah.
I know it's normally very, very distinctive and it's quite polarizing, goat's cheese, but they will be wrong.
Yeah. It's not really, I would have sort of been a bit lighter if it had been goat's cheese, lighter in colour.
Wow.
Mm.
very, very strong, earthy.
It's quite spicy, isn't it, towards the end?
It is.
It is earthy. I think that is cow's milk, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm getting a lot of a bitter finish on that one. Unfortunately, I know we're only supposed to try to say nice things or not at all, but for me, the flavour doesn't support the beautiful appearance.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit unhappy about that slight discoloration. One thing I do just want to say, sort of mainly to the viewers, is that you will notice me from time to time spitting into a cup. It's not because I don't particularly like that cheese, it's because we do have a lot of samples in this category, and once I've tasted the cheese and I've got the flavour in my mouth, then I am rejecting the rest of it. So please excuse me for that.
Well, I'm just totting my scores up, Sally, while you're cleaning.
Oh, hang on, gosh, you're ahead of me, Richard.
Yes, I'm afraid that one looks $1 million, but I'm afraid for me, flavour-wise, it just doesn't quite deliver, and I'm still left with a strong ammonia note at the back of my throat.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
So probably not going to be in the top listing today, but maybe Younger could have been in a better place.
Okay, so I think we're moving on to
It's 210.
210.
What an interesting looking cheese, Sally.
Yes, I'd like to see this as a whole. I like the rind.
It's got a glorious rind. Just imagine that on a
Yes,
cheese ball. It
that's
just makes me
fantastic, isn't it?
wonder if it's nettle leaves, a bit like Yarg. It has that sort of bloom to it.
Yes.
Bags and bags of theatre. Looks $1 million.
Again, it's one of those that you'd want to see on your cheese board, wouldn't you?
You certainly would.
Mm.
Love it, and it's got a nice. You can't really say paste when you're talking about a sort of a semi-hard, but the blue has really done its work. It has a really nice soft body and texture. I know people get cross when you eat from the nose of a wedge. It's one of these fallacies, but still, I like to eat it that way.
Yes, I do.
Nice soft gel.
The veining really is lovely. Mm.
Starts off lovely and sweet.
It's very rich, creamy, and indulgent, isn't it? This one.
Again, I sort of come from a blues background, and I'm not talking about the music, but again, I'm getting some. It starts off so sweet, but I'm still getting some bitterness at the end.
It's just a little bit, but I don't think it detracts from the overall eating quality of the cheese. I quite like that. I think it's so rich and creamy. It's really put a film around my mouth. I quite like that.
I think we're normally pretty well aligned, Sally, but we'll differ on this one because I think it's $1 million in every way, but I'm left with quite a bitter taste in my mouth.
Are you? Okay. We'll have to see where we go with our scoring then.
Good job we're not all the same.
It certainly is.
So, but true to type and character, bags of it. Just making some notes here, viewers.
So just to remind you, there are 19 in this class and we're on number 7.
Yeah,
So-
it's okay.
Good luck with that, yeah?
Thank you. There's an actual skill, Kerry, as Sally will agree, in managing to keep your palate independent, and there are times where you need to have a short break and a drink.
Yes, yeah.
Because otherwise your palate gets stale and it tends to remember the previous sample. And I think it is a skill that you learn over time and with experience.
Mm.
Right, we're on to 211 now.
Yep.
Another individual cheese. Another great example.
Looks lovely, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Just make sure that's not obscuring the screen.
I'm just going to cut into mine.
Really nice.
Look at that. Super.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It is. And a pleasant aroma as well.
Very pleasant. Yes, there's no off notes there at all, is there?
No, it's lovely. Some people eat the rind, some don't. I tend not to because I know these cheese get handled, and perhaps that's one of my foibles.
I do a mixture of both of that, because sometimes you do get some slightly off notes as well on the rind, which can affect the cheese. But that's got a really nice sweet flavour.
Well, I'd buy that one again, Sally.
Sorry?
I'd buy that one again.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely.
Probably even better given another week. It's got a rich savoury note, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
For the viewers' benefit, you hear when foodies talk about wine and cheeses, they come up with all sorts of, hints of bubblegum, but actually you don't need that many descriptors. And I think our palates are only able to pick up sort of sweet, sour, savoury, salt, bitter, or any combination of the above. That's wonderful. Wonderful cheese. I think that's best one so far for me.
Well, it is for me in terms of my scoring.
Yeah.
I like that.
I did as well. Super. Okay, so we're moving on to, are you ready to move on to sample 212?
I think I am, yes.
Not sure this one's had any favours done by the way it's been presented, because I think it's a nice piece of cheese, but it's cling wrapped and almost started to sweat a little bit in the wrap.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh because it does look a whole lot better when it comes out of the cling film.
So this is the problem, isn't it, with this type of wrap? But,
yeah. Until it started to mature, and for the viewers, can you see how it started to slump slightly in the centre?
Slightly, yeah. Yes, exactly.
As the blue mould breaks the curd down?
Yeah, most definitely.
Wouldn't put me off. Just make a note. Almost a semi-hard again, Sally.
It's immediately quite spicy and quite flavoursome. Almost a little bit caramelised. Are you getting a slightly caramelised flavour?
I love the flavour.
Lovely, isn't it?
Mm.
Very nice.
Really is a super flavour. It's what we tend to repeat purchase on flavour. Things can look nice, but at the end of the day, it's the actual taste that's the reason we eat.
Yes. I think perhaps your initial purchase is based on whether or not you like the look of it, isn't it? And then,
Yes, exactly.
The second time you go back to buy it, it's because of the flavour.
We're being spoilt today with some great cheese, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's another great cheese. 2 in a row. Shall we move on to sample 213? Are you ready?
I am. Gosh.
I'm just assessing this, and not necessarily in the right order, but this cheese has not been consistent in the surface finish, and you can see where the blue mould, there's a fissure there, and the blue mould has got to work early, and you've got that stained area.
Yeah, I've got a little bit on this side as well. Yeah.
And I've also got some patchiness here, and you can see where the blue mould has worked and broken the curd down, it's darker, and where the cheese is still young and acid, it's still pale. And as well, Cheshire cheese, which is almost an acid crumbly cheese, tends to be pale as a consequence of the acid. Most blues start that way, and the blue neutralises them as it goes on. So you can see the white patches and the darker yellower patches where the blue's been at work. Quite an ammoniacal aroma.
A little bit. I'm not getting quite as much as I did on one of the other ones, but. I think just a comment for the viewers as well is that I'm initially getting quite a harsh flavour, which, to be honest, I don't find unpleasant personally. That's fine. Some people might not find that very pleasant. And I think the comments you were making earlier about the bluing is that when you see these sort of fissures and fractures like this, and you've got a lot of intense mould there, that can be quite off-putting to some people. And that's where you're
advanced users, Sally. I don't think young people I think as we get older, our taste buds mellow, and of course mine will be more mellow than yours now. But I'm not sure this would appeal to the younger generation.
I think you'd have to be a real blue fan to enjoy it, but you know, if you can get around that, and that's where you're getting some of the harshness of the flavour from. But if you can get around that, that's not an unpleasant cheese. Doesn't have a wow factor for me, but it's not unpleasant. Yeah,
this one isn't for me personally, but taking my own personal hat off as true to type, probably not either. It's I've seen slightly better examples in consistency of bluing. Possibly got some areas of tight texture. Just pass me the tissue over, could you please? Just have a part where you can tidy up, since this is rather a big class and lots to go at. Oh, just grab the next set of samples.
I'm just going to cut myself a slice of apple. I'm getting quite a film coating in my mouth now. Okay, so this looks like it's a half from a slightly larger round of cheese. Okay,
yes, sample 214.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually got a bit of colouring in the milk.
So there's a bit of colour in there, isn't there?
Got a sort of an amber hue.
Tissue.
I've also noticed, Sally, it's quite well on this cheese. Are you noticing a little bit of free moisture as the cheese starts to give up, hanging on to the liquid in it?
Mm-hmm.
Looks lovely though.
It looks very nice indeed. Yeah.
Fantastic bluing.
Oh, it's quite firm, isn't it? Firmer than some of the others we've seen.
It is, and
It is quite firm.
I think it's quite well on in terms of maturity. It's starting to get
Yes.
a little bit of an earthy note.
Yeah, it's definitely dipping just a little bit at on one side.
Looks $1 million. Yeah, slightly earthy, mushroomy aroma. Not unpleasant.
In terms of blue flavour, that's lovely. I really like that. Quite
Yeah,
tangy, spicy, and also it seems a little bit salty, but it's very nice.
Are you getting a nutty note to it?
I am getting a nutty note actually. Now you mention it, yeah.
Love the body, love the texture of it.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of coloured blues like this, but actually, that's in terms of eatability and the flavour, that's very good. It's right up there.
Have a sip to cleanse the palate. So moving on to sample 215. Small button truckle in greaseproof paper. Been nicely folded. Someone's taken care to present that nicely, which we can't say that about all the samples. Been nicely folded. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, exactly. We have a matching pair. That's good. A little bit of ammonia.
Yes, and it's very firm, almost on the side of slightly dry.
Yeah.
Making some notes.
Now, following on your comments about it being dry, there's quite a bit of dryness underneath the rind.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little
The
bit
slightly
of
older
this.
cheese.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's always a bit of a lottery if you have sporadic bluing, because the cheese will taste different, and some would say that's part of its character, depending on where you eat it. I really like that flavour. It's gentle for me. And not what I was expecting, Sally.
No. I'm a bit torn on this one because I like the flavour, but I'm just not convinced about the bluing in the centre of the cheese. I'd like to have seen just a little bit more, but it's nice, and the actual overall presentation of the cheese is lovely. I do love these little cheeses.
Just let down slightly by the sporadic bluing.
Mm.
Okay. Shall we move on to the next sample?
Just give me 1 minute. I'm just doing my scoring.
So Richard, would you like to tell the viewers a bit about your knives you're using, because they're not the standard domestic knives that everyone watching would be familiar with?
When one's grading or sampling cheese, you can use something called a grading iron, which is a bit like a piece of plumbing pipe cut in half with a handle. But for soft cheese, semi-soft cheese, or small portions, one would tend to use a knife a bit like a long penknife, fairly deadly, not the sort of thing you want to go to airport check-in with. and very, very sharp. But of course, it's great because you can cut a large piece of cheese with a very long blade.
Okay,
We also
thanks,
have
Dan.
a different type of knife here, and you can see the openness in the middle, a bit obvious, but it's great when you're cutting through a firm cheese because it gives the cheese some relief. It's much easier to cut with the gaps in the center of the blade. Spikes at the end, of course, to pick it up.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so are we ready? 216.
We certainly are. Yes, so sort of commercial packaging.
Yeah, it's in a multi-vac pack. Take it out of the pack. Sample 216.
This is where we hand over to you, Kerry, because you're the packaging expert.
Well, it's just a thermoform pack in plain material. It must be a non-barrier top because you need it to breathe, so it must be a non-barrier top.
Yes.
Exactly right. Blue dies off and blue needs oxygen to flower. So if you put it into airtight packaging, and you'll see this sometimes, if you ever go abroad on holiday and see blue cheese that's been exported, quite often it's gone grey or green because the oxygen's died off. Take it out of the pack, and after half an hour, the blue will have revitalised it.
Again, yeah.
What do you think of that one, Sally?
Again, I'm trying to take away from my mind the fact that I'm not a fan of the coloured blues, but it's nicely presented. Quite a nice bit of blue veining. I like the rind. It smells very clean, very fresh.
Got plenty of theatre about it.
Certainly has. Yeah, the only downside, it's a little bit slimy on the rind, but I think that's because it's, for me anyway, mine had been out for some time now.
Nutty and sweet, I'm getting.
Mm.
And again, I can taste the actual, I'm actually eating bits of mould as well. I think you mentioned earlier that sometimes you get a coating around the blue.
Yes, yes, definite nuttiness and sweetness there. That would appeal to a wide range of consumers, and it looks great on the cheese board because the colouring is so vibrant.
Would you buy it again if you were a consumer?
Sorry?
Would you buy it again if you were a consumer?
Yes, I would buy it again, most definitely. We're going to have a tough decision to make at the end of this, I think. We're seeing some very good cheeses.
You're right, it's quite strange, viewers. Sometimes you'll get a mixed bunch where you've only got sort of one or two clear winners when you're looking at a range of samples, and other times you can have sort of 8 or 9 that are all much of a muchness, and as Sally said, it's a real tough call to decide which one will steal the show. That's my best so far, though, I think.
It'll be close for me, but very, very, very near the top, that's for sure.
Yeah. Excuse the pause, viewers, just while I can do a little bit of a comparison. It's actually scored joint first equal for me when I look through all the ones we've done so far.
Okay.
We're doing quite well, really. We've done 3, 6, 8, 10, 12 samples so far. So, is your palette holding up?
Just about.
Yeah, same here. Oh.
So Richard, while you're getting the next piece of cheese, you mentioned earlier the wedge shape, cutting across the bottom is not the done thing. But you don't.
A colleague always says that the French frown on cutting the nose off a brie, and there are all sorts. It's a bit like etiquette and all that sort of thing. I don't subscribe to it myself, but I think
So it's just an etiquette, not a taste thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably probably because the centre of the cheese gets the best opportunity.
Yep.
I'm wondering, Sally, if this sample 217 is a white version of 216, because
I think you could be right.
nice mushroomy aroma.
Lovely.
Now, you see, you mentioned about the coloured cheeses. I actually prefer them, so I'm having to make allowances because this hasn't got colouring.
Ah, right, okay.
It's interesting with blues as well, because, as I mentioned earlier, it's what the blue mould's done to the cheese, to the curd. With the coloured cheeses, the annatto that's added, the colouring, actually interrupts the curd structure and makes it a bit more rugged, and that helps with bluing. And if you make a Shropshire Blue and a Blue Stilton in the same dairy, the Shropshire Blues always tend to blue better. One of those, bet you always wanted to know that.
I like that. I think it's certainly for me delivering lovely blue flavours. Spicy, creamy.
I know I'm contradicting myself with what I said earlier, but I'm actually getting so strong, I'm almost getting like a pear drops taste.
I'm not getting that, but
Pleasant, but probably slightly on the strong side for me if I was eating it on a cheese board. But like I said earlier, good job we're not all the same. Should we go on to 218, Sally?
go on to 218. Yeah. Again, another sort of commercially packaged version. Okay, similar looking cheese.
Thermoform, Kerry, am I correct?
Another thermoform pack, yes.
Yeah.
Again, Sally, it's got that pale look. I wonder if it's a sheep stroke goat type cheese.
I'm thinking perhaps we have got a goat here.
Lovely veining.
It's lovely veining, yeah, beautiful. You can just imagine this cheese as a whole cheese, can't you?
Beautiful. Velvety, creamy. I'm wondering if that's I'm wondering if that's sheep's milk. It's not got that goatiness.
It's not strong enough for goat, is it?
No. And it's very, very smooth, creamy, velvety in body and texture.
It's lovely.
Gorgeous.
Absolutely delicious.
Sweet caramel finish.
Yeah, and a little bit of nuttiness at the end there. I think that's really nice.
I'm getting to a new best yet, Sally. Wow.
Yeah, lovely.
That is lovely. That's wonderful. Going to put that one to one side. I think we might be revisiting that one.
I think we're both singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, it's quite nice. And viewers, Sally and I, we're both judges, but we've only recently sort of met as part of this Virtual Cheese Awards. So it's really encouraging that our sort of palates are quite well aligned. You can imagine this would be a real tricky experience if we were totally at loggerheads with one another. And you don't know until you actually start the session. So moving on to sample 219.
Okay, another a little wedge cut from a whole cheese. Beautiful rind on it.
It's got lots of theatre, hasn't it?
It certainly has, yeah. I do like these type of cheeses. I've got a little bit of drying out on mine, very slightly underneath the rind.
Again, almost only a semi-soft, but it's not stopped the blue forming, so it's a,
No, it certainly hasn't.
Nice consistent curd. Very pleasant in nearly every way, Sally, but not inspiring.
No, it's a bit flat, if anything, and I'm getting quite a, rather than the blue flavour, this is going to be quite hard to describe what I mean. I'm getting a musty note rather than the blue mould note. If I'm actually eating the blue mould. Would I buy it again? I probably would buy it again, actually, just to see what it would be like on a repeat purchase. I don't feel that we're seeing this one necessarily at its best, to be honest.
No, I'd agree with that. It's as it is at the moment, the appearance is wow and the theatre, but the actual flavour isn't wow for me.
Yeah.
Moving on to sample 220, foil wrapped, as you can see. Great bluing, and you can see the penicillium on the rind. Lots of theatre. Cuts very nicely. Just on the edge. Just on the edge of ammonia there.
It's the very edge. I mean, to be honest, I like that intense spiciness, almost tingling that it gives you in the mouth. I'm finding the cheese and paste itself quite dry. It's not unpleasant, but no wow factor for me. The flavour actually is very nice.
Getting a nutty aftertaste on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We've been spoilt by such a good bunch today, haven't we? Because that's a perfectly good cheese, but it's not up there for me in the winning sort of quadrant.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It's nice. I certainly like the flavour.
In another show, that could well do really well. But,
or even another class, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for those viewers who've stuck with us, lots to go at. Look, you can see where we are so far, and we're on the last page now. So 3 more samples left to go in the session. Moving on to sample 221.
Yes. Might be a coloured version of what we've just seen.
You'd have to say so, wouldn't you? Coloured version of the one we've just looked at, but let's see. It actually smells, has an almost identical aroma.
Yeah.
Lovely appearance and bluing though.
Yeah, it is nice bluing. Just a little bit dry and gritty around that veining.
Tell you what, Sally, with my eyes closed, I wouldn't be able to really tell it much apart from the previous one.
Now I'm getting more ammonia on that one than I did the previous one.
Sweeter aftertaste as well. Mm. Okay, just jot some scores down. I preferred the previous non-coloured version of it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The end is in sight.
Have to tell you, viewers, in a moment, after this session's finished, we'll be having a break to let our palates recover and probably have a nice cup of tea or something.
Even a glass of red wine.
At this time of the day, why not?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Everybody thinks we've got water or squash in our DuPont mugs.
Cheers.
Yes. Okay. Sample 222.
Sample 222, yeah.
Nice consistent bluing, apart from the small gap down there.
Yes, I have a similar small gap.
Quite a mushroomy aroma. I'm thinking we're going to be able to taste the bitty blue in this one again, Sally. It's almost got, the blue is almost crunchy, it's so well grown.
And again, that's it doesn't deter me from blue cheese, but it might deter some people.
Nice sweetness.
It's a nice cheese. It's not causing me any offence whatsoever. I just think that in this particular class with the other blues that we've seen, it's perhaps not right at the very top for me. But a very nice
again, to reiterate it, we're spoilt, aren't we? Because we've seen so many good samples today.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm right, I'd be totally happy with that. But we've seen stuff that's so super, it's just not quite up there, is it? 100% agree with what you've just said. Getting a bit of ammonia at the end up the back of my nose as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's just catching, isn't it, in the throat slightly.
Yeah. So team, last but not least. Looks to me as though this has been vacuum packed, and really a cardinal sin to vacuum pack a blue cheese. So all it does is cause the blue to die and gives peppery, sharp notes. And
It could be a non-barrier bag, of course, Richard.
Yeah, except it isn't, Kerry, and that's a fair
It's,
comment. If you see close, it's actually got a shine to it.
I can see now, yep, yep.
Vacuum's so tight already that blue is a grey colour. And, you know, viewers, today, Tuesday, and the cheese were delivered on Friday evening and have been kept in chill. So that's several days without any oxygen to the blue.
It's definitely had a detrimental effect, hasn't it?
Mm.
Just making a note about VAC pack. Yeah, it's a shame.
It is a shame, yes. Yeah,
Because I don't think we're looking at this sample at its potential best.
at its best. No. The texture's just not right on that.
It's gone plastic, like almost like yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I'm afraid that's not for me.
no, no me.
Oh. Okay, so we've got an awful lot to discuss here, viewers, and I'm wondering if Sally and I could ask our host Kerry if he could just press pause on the recording just while we get our heads together, and we'll come back to you all with our final scores.
Yep, okay.
So, viewers, Sally and I have had our heads together, and Kerry's also contributed as well. And we think we have sample 218 as a standout winner. It got 9 out or 10 out of 10 in nearly every section, and it was a lovely flavoured small truckle, had a caramel note, nutty, sweet, and a sweet finish. It was a standout winner. Second was sample number 211, and sample number 211, viewers, had a lovely creamy body, a sweet finish, and a rich savoury flavour. And that scored a 53 out of 60, so also doing well. And third was sample 216, which was actually in a sort of a thermoform pack, and it had an amber colour, and it had good clean bluing, nutty and sweet. And at the time when we looked at it, it was halfway down the list. For me, it was the best so far. But yeah, what do you think, Sally?
We completely agree with that, obviously, but I think it's important for the viewers to know that that was an extremely high quality of cheeses within that class. We perhaps only had one exception, which was the final one, which wasn't helped by the fact it was packed in a vacuum pack, which has done the cheese itself no favours. But at no point really did Richard and I particularly disagree on anything. And I think it's important for the cheesemakers to know what really good cheeses they presented us with today. Probably the best, certainly that I've seen, and I think Richard also made the comments of the best that he's seen as well. And it's made the judging a very pleasant experience, but actually quite a difficult and quite a challenging experience to actually pick out those little nuances that have given us the first, second and third cheeses. It's a shame we couldn't give first, second and thirds to all of them.
Yeah, I think just to concur, it's the best soft blue class I've ever judged in, and been going at it now for about 15 years judging. So and that's not just because this is the first virtual cheese awards, viewers. There's genuinely some stunning cheese out there.
Yeah,
Great.
I don't think certainly at a live show when we've been judging sort of face to face, I don't think I've been presented with such good quality cheeses before. Really good.
Well, I think you both deserve a big vote of thanks. It's been a marathon class. Your comments have been brilliant. I'm sure, especially for the cheesemakers and the public in general, you've done wonders for the blue cheese market and the people who made it. You've helped take the mystery out of how we get the blue in the cheese. And I'm sure a lot of people are like me and desperate to know whose cheeses are the winning three particularly, but there's one or two others I made notes of that I can't wait to find out and discover where they come from and where I can get it. It's frustrating seeing you taste it and not being able to taste it. You can feel it on the tip of your tongue watching. So you've done a really good job in, you know, imparting that knowledge over on the to the viewers. So I think that's the close of this section.
We've really enjoyed it.
Good, good. Thank you both, and we'll close this section. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.